I've always told myself that no matter how dystopian the headlines get coming out of the United States, we're not going to ever read about legislators in the United States wanting to roll back child labor laws, right? Can't we all agree that putting kids to work is bad, right? Apparently not. Because we got 10 states in the United States right now and 2 others that are thinking about it who have proposed or passed legislation rolling back child labor law standards. And of course, this is being spearheaded by conservative think tanks and, oh, by the way, conservative and think in the same sentence, unless it's conservatives have never learned how to think, then it makes sense. But otherwise, get that shit out of here. And it's being backed by Republican lawmakers, and why not? They're there, and we can't fill all of these jobs. Why? When the fuck did it become a child's job to solve the problems that you're creating for them? All the problems that you adults are already creating for kids, and now you're gonna put work on their plate on top of the future that you have already flushed down the toilet for them? Congratulations, not fucking dystopian at all. Not completely, let's party like it's 1869. Why don't we? If you find this noble, you are fucked in the head. You're fucked in the head and there's no help for you. Don't come to me looking for it when you finally realize you're fucked in the head, because I ain't got any time for you, Jack. Backed by big business and lobby groups, politicians nationwide are pushing attempts to expand work hours for minors, expand the industries minors are permitted to work in, reduce enforcement, and legislate sub-minimum wages for minors. Listen to that. Sub-minimum wages. Sub-minimum wages. So the federal minimum wage is already a joke. It's $7.25, right? Good luck making any kind of ends meet anywhere in the United States for $7.25 an hour. You might be able to get like a moth-eaten trailer half flooded in Biloxi, Mississippi or something, but anywhere else, good luck. Sub-minimum wage. So what you're saying is we need workers really badly, but just not enough to, even if they're kids, they're kids, so we can pay them less. So you're saying that they are less than an adult worker. What does that tell you? That maybe there's a reason you see them as that. Because they're young, they're not as strong, they're impressionable, and they just should not be forced to fucking work. And you might say, oh, they're not forced, they're gonna have a decision. Bullshit. Bullshit. They're not gonna have a decision. If you expand these laws and you open pathways for kids to start working not only at younger ages, but for longer hours and shittier pay, you're going to have all sorts of usually conservative parents pushing their kids out the door at the age of 10, or however young that you let these kids work. They're going to be pushing them out the door. If you can say that they can't make decisions for themselves at that age, why should they be allowed to make the decision to just wipe out their childhood and put themselves at risk? They're putting themselves at risk because some of these jobs, logging for fuck's sakes. Do you want your 10-year-old working as a logger? Do you want your 10-year-old working in a coal mine? These jobs are already super dangerous for adults, but putting kids in there? This is just, you are all so fucked in the head. How do you live with yourselves? I did not have the best childhood in the world. You can tell, right? You can tell. I didn't have the best childhood in the world. And that just made me appreciate even more how crucial it is to make sure our kids are taken care of in their formative years. Let me repeat that. Kids should be taken care of in their formative years when their brains are still developing, right? The United States already has some of the shittiest child health care, or child care in general, in the developed world. You have the highest infant mortality rate in the developed world. Your education system sucks and is held together by paper clips and string. What else? Come on. And now you're going to put this on them? You don't even care enough to take care of them at school. How are we supposed to think, or how are we supposed to believe you're going to take care of these kids on the job site, at the workplace? You're not. Because right-wingers are all about rolling back regulations so they can cut costs and save money. And if one way to cut costs and save money is to hire kids, I don't know why any of us are surprised. I don't know why I was surprised when I read this shit. But I'm still going to read more of it. Like I said, there are 10 states. Sub-minimum wage. Right there for you. There's your sub-minimum wage. Let's see. 10 states have proposed or passed legislation to roll back child labor protections in the past 2 years, including 8 states so far in 2023 alone. Arkansas passed legislation in 2023 to eliminate age verification and parental or guardian permission requirements. Don't even need mom or dad's permission to go and work at McDonald's now. You can be 10 years old, walk in there. Yeah, you look 15 and you look like you've got a work permit. Get on the fryer. In Iowa, a bill was passed in 2022 to lower the minimum age of childcare staff. What the fuck are you thinking? And reduce staff-to-child ratios. The state's Republican majority Senate also recently passed a broader bill that enables minors to work in hazardous occupations and extends permitted work hours. New Jersey, New Hampshire, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, Ohio, South Dakota. A bill in Georgia was proposed but failed, thankfully. This is grotesque. Business lobby groups are also pushing for change. Of course they're going to push for change. Because even if business lobby groups were not seeing a whole lot of their jobs not get filled because they aren't paying people shit, of course they're going to try to circumvent laws so that they can hire kids so they don't have to pay a goddamn thing. Right? Or peanuts, basically. Listen to this. Listen to this. This sounds like something straight out of a horror movie. Could extra teen working hours help restaurants with the labor shortage? The National Restaurant Association asked last year in a blog post. National Restaurant is NRA. You're in good company, assholes. Calling for Congress. So this version of the NRA was calling for Congress to pass the Republican-backed, who else but Republicans, Teenagers Earning Everyday Necessary Skills Act. So that's how we're going to make this palatable. We're going to put kids to work so they can learn the necessary skills of life. But you think a lot of these jobs are unskilled, remember? You don't think unskilled labor deserves $15 an hour, remember? So what skills are these kids learning at these shit jobs that they're going to be pushed into, huh? You're always deriding these jobs as unskilled. All labor is skilled labor, by the way, but how fucking hypocritical. All right, it's right-wingers. Hypocrisy is just in their bones. It's leached into their hollow, rickety, dusty old bones, full of green dust. And of course, the Teens Act. Yeah, teenagers earning every day. Again, it's grotesque and it's hypocritical. Fuck you. The efforts, backed by business industry groups and conservative think tanks, again, that term, conservative think tanks, is just... The efforts, backed by business industry groups and conservative think tanks, often contradict federal child labor law standards. In its report, the EPI argues the goal is to challenge federal standards at the local level in order to weaken or eliminate federal wage and hour standards. Right, like I said, if there is a law saying it can't be done, they'll just try to change the law so it can be done, to get rid of those pesky inspectors and those annoying regulators, those people who come in to try and make things safe, those people who come in to try to, protect the environment, protect our children, right? But no, we're just going to endanger their lives even further. You're already at a big risk of danger just by living in America, but, again, parents are just going to push their kids like straight out the door. And especially this is going to disproportionately affect families in poverty. Mom and dad can't make ends meet at the mill. Why not get Billy and Susie to work there with them? Make it a family affair, right? Doesn't it just invoke so many good, happy feelings within you? Little Billy and Susie falling into a vat of molten metal. Help, help. Oh, well, you took the risk. You guys are fucking... Democrats have proposed several bills, federal bills, to counter the trend, and the Department of Labor and Department of Health and Human Services have proposed policies to strengthen enforcement of child labor violations and increase monetary penalties for violations. Opponents of the bills argue that enforcement is already inadequate and enforcement agencies haven't been adequately staffed or funded to respond to the rise in child labor violations. So here's some statistics for you. I know that people don't like statistics because they contradict the bullshit that they always think is the truth. Teens and high school students that get close to or exceed that 20-hour-a-week mark for paid labor during the school year end up in a higher risk category, are less likely to complete high school, less likely to be in a position to pursue post-secondary education or training. Notice they said post-secondary education, not simply college or university, just anything, trade, you know, because... No, what good is college anyway? Yeah, well, it also applies to trade schools. They're just going to be stuck in an endless loop of shitty minimum wage jobs. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Mom. But mostly Dad. It's probably dads who are going to be pushing for this the most. Of course. And that puts young people on a path to fewer job opportunities and lower earnings for a lifetime. It's actually very consequential, you don't say. Even those pushes to extend work hours are a really slippery slope and dangerous in terms of long-term economic outcomes for children and their families. So what have we learned here today, folks? What have we learned? We learned that the United States... We learned another example of how the United States is turning into... Well, you know, exactly the thing that a place with unfettered capitalism eventually turns into, right? Can't fill the jobs. Got a lot of work, but no one wants to do it. Nobody wants to do it. No, it's not that nobody wants to do the work. It's that nobody wants to destroy themselves for a shit wage that should be more than twice what they're earning, and the companies can more than afford it. And they figure, well, they'll just stay home and actually do this thing called enjoying their lives until they can find something that will pay them adequately. You know, the United States, it doesn't seem to matter who is in charge. And I know Democrats are working hard to push back against these bills, but all of these states who have Republican legislatures who push this shit through, you know, all it takes is one more Republican regime just like that, and you've got all sorts of child labor laws, even at the federal level, being rolled back because they'll make it seem palatable to the general public, which is pretty dim-witted, to the general public that, you know, maybe your kid needs to learn a few skills. Maybe your kid's too bratty because they're not working enough. Maybe your kid is, you know, maybe the kids aren't getting the mental help that they need. They're not getting the help they need at school. They're not getting an adequate lunch. They're not getting any help from anybody, anywhere. And they're being told it's noble to go and break their back at a Barnes & Noble. Jesus fucking Christ. Get your shit together, America. Stop letting this... It's just... And, you know, the chances of this being passed on a federal level, I know that they're slim. I know that they're slim, but Donald Trump was elected president. I do not take anything for granted anymore. I don't take a fucking thing for granted anymore when it comes to the United States. Anything can happen. Absolutely anything can happen. And those who, like, I got a bumper sticker on my car that says, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. And this is a fucking atrocity, and it comes straight from the absurdities that dumb shits like Donald Trump and other Republican lawmakers and right-wing politicians the world over have made you believe. Get your fucking shit together! And try to have a good day, folks.